out and do what they want to in life for whatever reason. So maybe it'll inspire a couple people. If it just inspires one person to not give up, I'll be happy. And I haven't told the story step by step to anybody. I just been telling like the short version of it, but telling the story and reliving it might do me some good as well. So anyways, let's get to it. I was running real low on food, and it started snowing. It got real cold. I stopped at uh, Chestnut Knob Shelter. Stayed there for the night. It was so cold, but I had the gear to somewhat handle it. It was a little bit colder than I was expecting it to get. It was in the low 20s. I woke up the next morning and there was snow everywhere. And it was even colder. So I decided I was going to try to push it to Atkins or Marion. And anybody that's done that section knows it's kind of dry for a good spell. And I made my way down the trail. It was windy, cold. You couldn't see nothing in front of you. It was complete whiteout, almost like the conditions I had this year on my hike. Every time I've been through that area, I've never gotten to see any views. It's always been snowy and cold and everything. But everything was going good until I made the decision to stop at Knott Mall Branch Shelter. I stopped, decided to go down there and get some water. And there was, 2-3 inches of snow. And when I got down to the water, it was nothing but ice. So I took my stick and broke up the ice a little bit and got down to get some water. When I stood up, my foot slipped on some ice. I fell backwards, hit my head on a rock, and it knocked me completely out. I got down there, it was right around 9:30, 10 o'clock. When I woke up, my feet was in the water and it was almost dark out. It was right around 4:30, 5 o'clock. I was so cold. I was shivering uncontrollably. There was blood everywhere through there. It busted the back of my head wide open. I went to stand up and I fell straight right back down. My feet were completely froze. I looked at them and I went to just pull my shoe up a little bit to see what was going on. Where my feet had been in the water so long they had shriveled, and then where they was wet, I had ice in between the outside of my shoe and my foot. And whenever I went to pull it a little bit, it was pulling the skin off where it was so shriveled up and everything. So I decided I was going to try to make my way back up to the shelter to get to my other clothes, my bag. But one thing I could do was crawl back up that hill, and the water is probably about 100 yards from the shelter. I crawled up. I made it right to the shelter, I remember trying to pull myself up, and I passed out again. I never even made it to my sleeping bag or anything. And I think that night is when I actually got the frostbite. Because my feet were cold, wet, and I passed out right there, half in the shelter, half out. And I didn't wake up until it was right around, I don't know, probably 10:30, 11 o'clock that next morning. I'm lucky I didn't die right then, because I was soaking wet, and it got down. I checked the weather when I got to the hospital days later. It got down to 12 degrees that night. And when I woke up, there wasn't nothing I could do with my feet. I could not get my shoe off without tearing my foot off, basically. It wasn't in a whole lot of pain right then. The pain didn't start until I decided it warmed up quite a bit. It got up to, I don't know, around the mid-50s that day. I decided I was going to try to crawl out of there, because I couldn't walk. I would take one step and fall straight to my knees. It was like my feet were completely useless. So I started crawling up the trail going northbound, trying to get to Virginia 42. It was about 2.5 miles away, and I had never it felt like it was 10 million miles away. What messed me up though, anybody that's had any kind of experience with frostbite, you don't want that to thaw out until you can keep it thawed out. Well, when I was crawling up the trail, my feet started to thaw out. Once I got on the other side of that ridge in the sun, it was so warm, and once they started to thaw out, that was the worst pain I've ever been in my life. It was excruciating. I was laying there curled up in the middle of the trail, crying like a fucking baby. So I decided it took me, I don't know, it felt like 2 hours. It may not have been that long to get back to the shelter. I figured my feet was already thawed out. I go back there. Then's when I realized I got serious problems. I went back to the shelter, hoping and praying somebody would come along. And if you remember, I was out of food. So this is 2 days with no food on top of that. This would have been November 29th. Nobody ever shows up. I never even seen a squirrel. I was there by myself. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't walk. I couldn't crawl. I didn't have any cell signal. This is why I carry a spot now. I honestly thought I was gone. I mean, I was staying warm. Making a fire wasn't going to do nothing but make my feet worse. I ended up falling asleep sometime or another that evening. Woke up in even more pain. It was like every day it was just getting worse and worse. I was so hungry, I was so thirsty. I couldn't even make it down there 100 yards to get more water. Then, about 6 o'clock on November 30th, this guy and girl that was hiking Sobo. That was one tough little girl. She through hiked AT I think at like 9 or 10 years old. Guy's name was Hunger. Her name was Rocket. Nicest people I think I've ever met in my life. They seen what was going on. They gave me a little bit of food, got me some water, and offered to leave out and go try to get help. I was already there like I was for 2 days. It was cold that night. This little girl was cold just sitting there talking. I told them to go on to bed and just try to get a hold of somebody when they leave in the morning. They didn't want to do that, but I didn't want one of them getting sick going out in the middle of the night to maybe possibly get cell signal to call rescue. But they eventually agreed and waited. The next morning, well, that night, 2 more people showed up. I cannot recall their names. I don't even think they gave them to me. But between them 4, they gave me enough food to last me that day. They left early that morning. And this would be December 1st. They got a hold of search and rescue sometime that morning. They showed up, I don't know, it was on up in the evening. They couldn't take my shoes off to see what was going on. They just gave me a couple shots and told me to try to walk out. Yeah, that didn't work too good. I got maybe 50 yards and I just couldn't go no further. They ended up bringing, it was kind of like a sled thing and a 4-wheeler. Put me on the back of it and took me out till about half a mile from the road. It got real rough and they got me up on this stretcher buggy kind of thing and took me out. Huge props and thank you to them, because that is one rough stretcher trail there at the end. They took me to Withville Hospital. The only thing they did there was walk in, cut my shoes off, my socks off, looked at me and told me I was going to lose my feet. Telling that to a hiker that just come off the trail, that they're going to lose what makes them do what they love most. Words cannot describe what I felt in that moment. And they just walked out the room and didn't say a word and just left me in there the whole entire time. Then they transferred me to Roanoke, Virginia. that they said the same thing. Next day, December 2nd, they sent me to Wake Forest in North Carolina. They determined, after looking at it, doing all kinds of stuff, I had deep frostbite on both my feet. It was, at that point, they was thinking it was just on my toes. A couple days later, it started showing on the heel of my left foot and down my foot some on my right foot. Now with frostbite, you have to let it run its course. So they sent me home after about a week and a half. Right at Christmas time, I had to go back after I went to Pulaski County Hospital because something didn't look right. I ended up getting gangrene in my right foot. So I spent my Christmas on my way to the hospital in Wake Forest. January 2nd, they cut all my toes off on both my feet. January 10th, they went back in and cut almost half of my right foot off. Y'all have seen pictures and videos of it. It's right where the arch in your foot is. It's up higher than the rest. They cut it right in the middle of that. They told me I would never hike again. I'd be lucky if I could walk with a cane. Mainly because of my right foot, the way it's cut. Every doctor since then has told me I would have been better off cut below the knee. Because where it's cut at an angle, it just makes it so hard on me. That's why I have to stop when I'm out every mile or so. I got home, I was stuck in a wheelchair. I couldn't even get in the damn bathtub. I got in a deep depression. My girlfriend at the time took one look at my feet, left me. I lost my place, I lost my car. Everything that meant anything to me, I lost. And I thought I lost the only thing that brings me peace in life, and that's being outdoors, hiking, backpacking, and everything. I'd basically given completely up until July. Well, more or less June. I snapped out of it and decided I wasn't going to make me being an amputee define me. I'm not going to let it set limitations for me. And I decided I was going to set out to prove that anything you can do, anything in life, if you want it bad enough. I was learning to walk with a backpack on my back. The people at physical therapy thought I was crazy. Everybody thought I was crazy. Everybody was tell me that it's a lost cause. It can't be done. that just pushed me even more to prove that I can do it. And y'all know the rest. I pushed and pushed and pushed. And that moment I made the decision I wasn't going to let it define me is when I started my Instagram and my YouTube. I wanted to show my story, just maybe inspire one person. And come to find out, I've inspired hundreds of people. And that just blows my mind that just a normal, everyday person like me can make a little bit of a difference in someone's life just by deciding not to give up. I really want to thank everybody that's been behind me, supported me in so many different ways. It just truly blows my mind. Probably about like it does y'all, me doing what I do now. Always, for a long time, I thought it was the worst thing to ever happen to me. But honestly now, I think in some sense it was the best thing to ever happen to me. It made me change the way I look at life. It made me change the way I prioritize things. I don't want possessions in life anymore. I want experiences. I want to go to places people's never been before. I want to hike this trail. I want to hike this trail. I want to do everything and anything that somebody normal can do. Normal's overrated, by the way, because everybody's opinion of it is different, so therefore there's no such thing as normal. But you get what I mean. I'm not letting this define who I am or what I can do. And before, honestly, if I wouldn't have had that change of mindset, I don't know where I would be right now. So many people out there completely give up when something dramatic happens to them. And if anybody's out there that something like that's happened to and you're laying there thinking about giving up, please don't. There's so much more to life, even with limitations. You just have to want it bad enough to do it. But that's going to be all for today. This was really, really, really hard to talk about. But like I say, if it just inspires one person, it'd be worth talking about it. And in time, I think it'll help me just by telling the whole story. Thank you for watching. Be safe out there in these crazy times. Please like, subscribe. It really means a lot to me. And I'll see y'all on the next one.